Part 5. I Took Away the Villain's Son. Author, the Great Onmyoji. Chapter 41. It's also very magical to say. A few days ago, a secret place appeared in Zhongzhou. But it was not a particularly powerful secret realm. Initially, it was rumored that it was just the cave of a prince-level practitioner. Therefore, it did not attract many strong people to go. Only some practitioners who had not yet established a foundation went. Xiao Qing'er, somehow, happened to go to the secret place in Zhongzhou. Sage Tianqian said slowly, her tone gradually became a little weird. I never thought that this secret place actually has another mystery. There is a blue strange fire in that secret realm, which can burn all things. It is a terrifying and unusual treasure. At that time, many practitioners who went to explore were burned to death by the cyan fire. But he didn't expect that this cyan strange fire would eventually recognize its owner. Hearing the words of Saint Tianqian, Yang Hao said helplessly, the owner of that cyan strange fire should be Xiao Qing'er, right? But what happens next? Yang Hao lamented that the protagonist had great luck. Such a magical cyan fire was obviously prepared for Xiao Qing'er. But he clearly remembered that the Saint Tianqian just now said that Xiao Qing'er was fought over by the Holy Land, and was eventually killed by a person. He accepted a living fossil as his apprentice. There must be a special connection between these two things. Good. Something magical just happened. This green strange fire has a great origin. It is said that when the master was recognized that day, blue sky fire enveloped the secret realm for 1,000,000 miles, alarming countless powerful people. It turns out, that blue strange fire turned out to be an inheritance from a sage thousands of years ago. Being recognized by the blue alien fire is equivalent to receiving the inheritance of that sage. Yang Hao shook his head after hearing this. He is worthy of being the protagonist, and his luck is indeed incredible. He just got a rare treasure, but it has such a big background. However, if it caused such a big commotion, if it goes according to the normal plot, Xiao Qing'er would definitely be coerced by all the major forces. But obviously that was not the case. He looked at the Saint Tianqian and listened carefully to what was going on. This sage is not alone. On the contrary, she once did great favors to the two holy places of Taiyan and Taishu. On that day, powerful men came to the two holy places, vying to accept Xiao Qing'er as the saint of the Holy Land. Unexpectedly, that sage still has a close relative living in this world. This close relative is already a living fossil, extremely powerful, and is only one step away from being a sage. If she comes forward, even two holy places will have to give some face. In the end, Xiao Qing'er was accepted as a direct disciple by this living fossil. Such luck is really unbelievable. Saint Tianqian said with some disbelief. Even if she is a saint from the Holy Land of eternal life, she can't help but envy Xiao Qing'er's amazing luck. Yang Hao. If he remembers correctly. In his memory, the hatred in Xiao Qing'er's eyes when she looked at Holy Sun Yaoguang was extremely deep. He believed that if he followed the normal routine, had such an adventure, and had a living fossil teach him personally, it would not take long for Xiao Qing'er to improve crazily, surpassing the original Holy Sun of fluctuating light. I can't believe that in 3 years' time, I will personally set foot on the Holy Land of eternal life and blow the head off of the Holy Sun of light. It's really a bit troublesome. Yang Hao shook his head, a little helpless. Xiao Qing'er has now followed the living fossil to practice, and he can't kill him in advance even if he wants to. If he really takes any action, it is very likely that the protagonist's fate will backfire, and he will have bad luck. The other party will also get many benefits. Obviously, the news brought by this Tianqian saint is not good news for him. The sun does not need to care. You are a genius with the appearance of an emperor. At this time, the words of Saint Tianqian came. She brought news about Xiao Qing'er to Yang Hao. Obviously, she already knew about the relationship between the two. The saint was so praised. I've memorized the news. What else does the saint want to do when she comes here? Yang Hao rolled his eyes inwardly. He now had a headache when he heard the words Zij. He knew very well that Saint Tianqian told him the news about Xiao Qing'er in order to show her goodwill to him. With his current display with his talent, there are many human beings like Tianqian Saint who want to get close to him. Seeing the words fall, Tianqian Saint is still standing tall. Yang Hao understands that the other party must have other purposes. Does the Holy Sun not want to see my concubine? Saint Tianqian glanced at Yang Hao, feeling a little complicated in her heart. With such a prominent status and stunning appearance, she was the center of attention wherever she went. She could feel that Yang Hao didn't care about her at all. Even inside and outside the words, it was clear that he meant to deal with himself. Hateful guy. If my ancestor hadn't asked me to be friends with you, I wouldn't be like this. Although Saint Tianqian was a little depressed in her heart, after seeing Yang Hao politely shaking his head, she still smiled slightly and said, "Can the Holy Sun know the realm of all things? I took away the villain's son." Author, the great Onmyoji. Chapter 42. Of course I know. Yang Hao glanced at Saint Tianqian speechlessly. Of course he knew about the realm of all things. The cultivation system in this world has already been very complete. After a practitioner steps into the realm of magical powers, he needs to use his soul to ignite his magical powers. If he is alone, that's all. The realm of all things is a place prepared by major forces to hunt souls for practitioners in the realm of magical powers. Each major force will build its own realm of all things to cultivate and hone its own talented practitioners. Yang Hao not only knows, if Saint Tianqian had not come, it would have been impossible for him to be on his way to the all things realm in the holy land of eternal life. Looking at Yang Hao, who was speechless, Saint Tianqian smiled hoarsely and said, "I said the wrong thing. It would be strange if the Holy Sun didn't know. I wonder if the Holy Sun plans to go." When Yang Hao heard this, he immediately understood what Saint Tianqian meant. What? Saint, do you want to go with me? This is not a good thing for you. Yang Hao's extremely confident words made Saint Tianqian helpless. She said, "It doesn't matter, it all depends on the opportunity. I really want to be with the Holy Sun. It's just that it's not the realm of all things that goes to the Holy Land. It is the realm of all things in the Qingyang dynasty." Yang Hao blinked when he heard this, and asked with some confusion, "Qingyang dynasty? Is there any mystery in the realm of all things there?" Yang Hao knows the Qingyang dynasty. It is a big force under the Holy Land of eternal life. To many small forces, it is considered a behemoth. But in front of the Holy Land of eternal life, which is like a bright moon, it is just mediocre among the many stars. A strange one. When it comes to resources, the all things realm of Qingyang dynasty cannot be compared to the all things realm of eternal Holy Land. But Yang Hao is not stupid. He knows that the other party deliberately comes to show his kindness, so he must. "You won't be aimless, that's why you ask like this. The realm of all things in the Qingyang dynasty is naturally incomparable to the one in my Holy Land." But the Holy Sun didn't know that the Qingyang dynasty's realm of all things was experiencing a strange phenomenon of a spiritual wave erupting. Under the outbreak of the spiritual tide, the realm of all things in the Qingyang dynasty will definitely have many spirits of all things evolving. Although the world of all things in my Holy Land is rich in resources and contains many living creatures, the truly valuable souls of all living things have long been collected. If you want to find an immortal soul, you need to spend a lot of time and energy, and you may not be able to find it yet. A God-level soul is basically impossible. However, the realm of all things in the Qingyang dynasty has just been baptized by the spiritual tide, and a large number of the spirits of all things have evolved. And because they have been baptized by a large amount of spiritual energy, the chance of birthing a soul will be greatly increased. If you are lucky, not to mention immortal level souls, even creatures with God level souls may be born. This matter is now a top secret in Qingyang dynasty. If the king of Qingyang dynasty is not the disciple of my ancestor, I would have no way of knowing. Because of this, I thought of the Holy Sun. I wonder if I would be interested in going to the Qingyang dynasty with me, sage Tianqian said to Yang Hao. The spiritual tide broke out. Yang Hao became interested after hearing this. There is relevant information in his memory. The spiritual tide is a wonder in this world. Once it breaks out, a terrifying spiritual energy will descend on the world. All the creatures in this world are baptized by the spiritual tide, which is equivalent to a world-shaking opportunity. According to Yang Hao, this kind of spiritual tide miracle may not happen once in 1,000 years in the vast eastern region where the Holy Land of Eternal Life is located. Unexpectedly, the wonder of the spiritual tide broke out in the realm of all things in the Qingyang dynasty. His heart was indeed moved at this moment. The quantity and quality of the resources in the realm of all things in the Holy Land of Eternal Life must far exceed those of the Qingyang dynasty. But the soul is hard to find, isn't it? Just talking. Sometimes killing hundreds or even thousands of living creatures may not result in the birth of a soul. He was extremely bored before and was ready to try his luck. But now the Holy Lady Tianqian comes to visit in person. If you want to give yourself an opportunity, of course you have no reason to refuse it. I'm interested. Shall we leave now? Yang Hao's character has always been decisive. Now that he is interested, he immediately responded to Saint Tianqian. If the Holy Sun wants it, then of course he can. Seeing that Yang Hao finally set his sights on her, Saint Tianqian felt inexplicably satisfied at the moment and immediately responded. Big discount on reading during the Dragon Boat Festival. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Grab a deposit now. Event time, June 22nd to June 24th. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I took away the villain's son. Author, the great Onmyoji. Chapter 43. 800,000 miles away from the Holy Land of Eternal Life, Qingyang Dynasty, the entrance to the realm of all things. Alas, what's going on? It seems like something happened in Wanwavong in the past few days and it was temporarily closed. A cultivator with tangled hair came to the entrance of the realm of all things, only to find that there were many strong men in armor guarding it. I heard that there have been some changes in the realm of all things, but I don't know exactly what happened. Another strong man cultivator shook his head and said, in the past, all you had to do to enter the realm of all things was to pay the Qingyang bronze medal to find opportunities. Now, even Qingyang gold medals are not allowed to enter. A token made of rare materials appeared out of thin air in his hand, which was the token of entering the realm of all things in the Qingyang dynasty. In order to obtain this Qingyang bronze medal, he spent a lot of effort and paid a huge price to get it. Unfortunately, when he came here excitedly, he found that the realm of all things was temporarily closed. There is really no way. After all, it was the realm of all things created by the Qingyang dynasty. Others can only endure it no matter what they want. It looks like we only have to wait a few days. When the cultivator with hair like tangled hair heard this, he also looked helpless. He and the strong man cultivator who spoke were both in the realm of supernatural powers. In ordinary places, they would be strong and respected by others. But in Qingyang, in front of a behemoth like the dynasty, not to mention the realm of supernatural power, even a prince would have to bend his back. Just as they were looking helplessly at the heavily guarded entrance to the realm of all things, ready to leave in disappointment, they saw a commotion. In the eyes of the two practitioners, a young man wearing a black robe with dragon patterns and unruly eyebrows, surrounded by a crowd, walked into the entrance of the realm of all things without any hindrance. The general who was responsible for guarding the entrance only made a slight movement as he drove straight in. He raised his eyelids, ignored it, and directly let the young man and the others enter. Didn't it say that all realms are closed? How can anyone enter? Even the Qingyang bronze medal does not need to be paid. Seeing this scene, the practitioner with tangled hair turned red in the face, extremely angry, and was about to go up to argue. "Brother, don't mess around." The strong man cultivator saw his actions and said quickly that man is the third prince of the Qingyang dynasty. Not only does he have a noble status, but his talent is also a first-class monster. I heard that he may even have the opportunity to worship in the holy land of eternal life. With such an identity, of course one can enter the realm of all things whenever he wants and leave whenever he wants. The strong man's words made the cultivator tremble, and then he felt depressed. Although he was not angry in his heart, the world is so realistic and cruel. Not to mention the young man's royal status, he only has the qualifications to worship in the Holy Land. His demonic talent is beyond the reach of ordinary practitioners like him. Just as the two of them were about to leave in despair, a man and a woman from a distance came through the air and headed directly towards the realm of all things. Two more ungrateful guys. Most likely they will be suppressed on the spot. If Xia Yahao, who was guarding this place, was in a bad mood, he might be killed on the spot. This time, it was the strong man cultivator who shook his head and said, "Going to the realm of all things in such a big way, even if the realm of all things is not closed now, it is a big taboo. It's a pity, that girl is pretty good looking." The cultivator with hairy hair also believed it when he heard this. Instead, he looked over with some schadenfreude, as if he had anticipated the fate of this reckless man and woman. However, something happened that made the two of them stare wide-eyed and extremely shocked. Even Xia Yahao, the third prince who entered the realm of all things before, just raised his eyelids. The moment a man and a woman appeared, his expression immediately changed, showing a flattering look, and he humbly bowed to the man and the woman. What are the origins of these two people? The cultivator with hair as thick as weeds stammered, looking into the distance in disbelief. A powerful man at the level of a feudal lord, facing this pair of men and women, actually bowed his knees and was as humble as dust. Look at Xia Yuho's appearance clearly meant he was honored. This really shattered his concept and subverted his cognition. The strong man cultivator on the side also turned pale and couldn't believe it. This pair came from far away. The man and woman who flew in were naturally Yang Hao and Saint Tianqian. With their identities, coming here was like gods coming to the world, and their status was more noble than the king of Qingyang dynasty. It would be fine if no one recognized them. What a coincidence, that Xia Yahao, who is responsible for guarding the realm of all things, is a disciple of the Holy Land of eternal life. However, compared to the noble status of Yang Hao and Saint Tianqian, this Xia Yahao is in the Holy Land. At that time, he was just an ordinary outer disciple. I took away the villain's son. Author, the great Onmyoji. Chapter 44. Son, Saint. The realm of all things in the Qingyang dynasty has undergone changes, and it may be more dangerous than the ordinary realm of all things. However, because of this, a powerful person has come to adjust the magic array of the realm of all things. With the help of special formation orders, the small ones can briefly enter the realm of all things. Once there is danger, please crush this mark immediately. Xia Yahao flatteringly put a mark in his hands and said with some excitement. He never thought that there would be a saint's son and a saint from the Holy Land coming here. He came to the Qingyang dynasty from the Holy Land and offended. He married an inner disciple in the Holy Land. If he could hug the lap of Holy Sun Yaoguang or Holy Lady Tianqian, he would have a chance to return to the Holy Land of eternal life. How could Xia Yahao not be so flattering? No. The saint of Tianqian said as coldly as ice, and walked directly towards the entrance of the realm of all things. Yang Hao also chuckled. He knew that the realm of all things was a small world built by powerful beings using magic circles. In the realm of all things, the experts will try their best to put in all kinds of strange creatures, use the magic circle to suppress their strength, and let the magical monks hunt and hone themselves. This is the benefit of having power to rely on. How can ordinary casual cultivators have such rare opportunities? As for what Marquis Xiaoyu said, neither Yang Hao nor Saint Tianqian paid much attention to it. Being able to be exiled to the feudal level of Qingyang dynasty, I am afraid that the foundation is riddled with holes. Such a useless feudal level, both Saint Tianqian and Yang Hao could easily crush them, so why did they need this person's protection? Seeing that Yang Hao and Saint Tianqian almost ignored his existence and went straight into the territory of all things, Xia Hao did not feel humiliated. On the contrary, he took it for granted. He was used to seeing aloof existences, and even felt that the attitude between Yang Hao and Saint Tianqian could be considered very friendly. What a strong aura! With almost no obstacles, he entered the realm of all things in the Qingyang dynasty. As soon as Fang entered, Saint Tianxuan's eyes flickered, revealing a look of surprise. Yang Hao also walked in at this time, squinting his eyes and looking in all directions. In front of him is a patch of green grass and blue sky. The distant sky is clear, like a fairyland on earth. What surprised Yang Hao the most was that the spiritual energy in this world is indeed extremely rich, even much richer than in the holy land of eternal life. Unfortunately, it's only temporary. These spiritual energies are just the aftermath of the spiritual tide receding. If it had always existed, this place could be called a treasure. Saint Tianqian sighed. Yang Hao nodded slightly, but from the rich spiritual energy that had not yet dissipated, one could know how terrifying the spiritual tide that had erupted in the realm of all things was. The two did not separate immediately, but stood side by side. Walking. Saint Tianqian walked and said to Yang Hao, Yao Guang, you haven't entered the realm of all things, right? Within the realm of all things have animism. Not only the monsters you encounter, but even a blade of grass or a piece of cloud can potentially extract the soul. As she spoke, she twirled her jade fingers slightly. Not far away, a pure white flawless flower with a faint aura swayed and appeared on the fingertips of Saint Tianqian. Look! When Saint Tianqian finished speaking, Yang Hao saw a stream of smoke drifting out from the pure white flower. As the smoke dissipated, the flower suddenly began to wither. Kindness. The extraction was actually successful. Under normal circumstances, extraction is not that easy. It would be great if an ordinary creature like this could successfully extract it once 100 times. After the spiritual tide broke out, it was indeed very easy for the creatures within these realms to extract their souls. The holy lady Tianqian watched with some surprise as the smoke gradually swirled and formed a ball of light on her fingertips. This ball of light was very familiar to Yang Hao. It was the divine soul. But compared to the divine soul he had obtained before, let alone God level, even immortal level souls are inferior by who knows how many levels. Ordinary soul. Yang Hao could tell at a glance the grade of the divine soul that Saint Tianqian extracted. Even though he had already touched and ignited the divine soul, Yang Hao still felt a little strange when he saw the divine soul appearing in front of his eyes. His eyes immediately wandered, and he was very surprised. Soon I found a spear standing in the distance, exuding evil aura. It should be a magic weapon thrown in casually by the powerful person who arranged all the world. Yang Hao's eyes wandered again, and he saw some weak monsters and spiritual objects growing randomly like the flowers that Saint Tianqian just extracted. The realm of all things is really magical. Astonished in his heart, Yang Hao also knew that it was time to separate. Both of them are in the realm of magical power, and their cultivation is free to roam in this realm of all things. Saint Tianqian brought him here to give him an opportunity. Harvest his friendship. If the two of them continue to walk together and encounter opportunities, neither one will give in. Naturally, this will refute the original intention of Saint Tianqian. Holy Son, the two of us will act separately from now on. The effect of this spiritual tide can last at least 1 month. After a month, we will see who has gained more. Sure enough, Before Yang Hao could speak, the voice of Saint Tianqian came. Yang Hao smiled and said, "That's fine." He didn't take the words of Saint Tianqian to heart. Just now, he had realized that the realm of all things was extremely beneficial to him. Saint Tianqian wanted to compete with him for the final harvest, but Yang Hao was worried that she would not give up in the end. Nothing is harvested. I took away the villain's son. Author, the Great Onmyoji. Chapter 45. After seeing Saint Tianqian disappear at the end of the sky, Yang Hao smiled and did not leave. Instead, he glanced at the green and picturesque surroundings in front of him. Backtrace. In his pupils, time patterns flashed out one after another. Suddenly, scenes appeared in front of his eyes. There was a lot of movement when the spiritual tide erupted, allowing me to accurately trace back time and find powerful creatures, Yang Hao thought secretly. This is the train of thought he just realized in an instant. Interesting. About a few minutes later, the time patterns in Yang Hao's pupils converged. After he created the body of the reincarnation, the original difficulty of using the time patterns was gone forever. Now, he can use time regression. Very relaxed. This side. Yang Hao looked in one direction and suddenly moved forward. Just now, he used time retrieval and saw through the time pattern the scene of the spiritual tide erupting in this area some time ago. Naturally, when the spiritual tide broke out, the creatures that suffered the most this week came into Yang Hao's eyes. Then he only needed to go back in time to find powerful creatures, kill them, and extract the soul. 10 minutes later, Yang Hao came to an extremely vast lake with sparkling blue waves. Found it? Yang Hao's eyes flashed, and he shot like thunder. The power of his Dao mark surged, and the power like a violent wave directly followed Yang Hao's palm. Boom! There was a dull sound of water bursting. The object of his attack was the sparkling blue lake in front of him. In his previous time review, this lake was just a small puddle, but now it is extremely vast. This is naturally the power brought by the spiritual tide. If Yang Hao could not discover the appearance of this lake through time, even if he passed by here, he would naturally ignore it. In Yang Hao's hand, the mist lingers on his fingertips. Extract. The thought moved slightly, and the power of the Dao pattern pressed the mist in my hand to condense into a cloud. Good luck, it worked. The quality of this divine soul is high grade. Far from it. It's not that there is no gain, at least it can be used as a basis for my judgment. Yang Hao felt it and put away this high-level soul with some regret. If Saint Tianqian knew about it, I'm afraid it would be extremely shocking. Because Yang Hao's speed of finding powerful creatures is really too fast. You know, the more powerful creatures are, the more spiritual they are. They are either extremely hidden and extremely difficult to detect, or they are terrifying in strength and extremely violent. No matter which one it is, it will take a long time to solve. How can anyone solve it so easily as Yang Hao? Extracted. Next, Yang Hao continued to run back in time and searched within the realm of all things. He was extremely efficient and could always find creatures that evolved under the spiritual tide one after another. These creatures include mountains, rivers, vegetation, birds, beasts, and insects. There are ferocious magic weapons. The evolution level of most of the creatures that Yang Hao has found is not particularly exaggerated. Often the extracted souls can only reach high level or super level. Not to mention, there is a high probability that the extraction will fail and the soul will dissipate. Therefore, Yang Hao did not search blindly and brainlessly, but summed up his experience while searching. After searching, it was not without gain. He extracted 2 king-level divine soul. One came from a dormant and sleeping monster, and the other came from a sword that exuded soaring murderous intent. Although Yang Hao looked down on these 2 king-level souls, they cheered him up. You know, but it only took half a day to search. This is enough to prove the efficiency of his search and the extremely high quality of the creatures in this world. Generally speaking, we can tell what quality of soul these creatures can extract. Next, give up looking for souls below the immortal level. If you look at it based on what I saw when I looked back in time. In this realm of all things, there are definitely beings with the potential to give birth to immortal level or even God level souls. And, there are quite a few. Yang Hao's eyes shone, and he began to walk in the realm of all things with great confidence. One day later, he finally found a bright sacred stone in a cave in a mountain. Extremely high quality. This sacred stone absorbed countless spiritual energy when the spiritual tide broke out before. If the prediction is correct, if this sacred stone is successfully extracted, it will definitely be able to extract an immortal level soul. Yang Hao picked up the brilliant divine stone. After looking at it, he was quite satisfied. Just as he was about to try to extract this divine stone, suddenly a cold laughter came from his ears. What's this? It seems very good, at least it can extract a king-level soul, right? Hand it over, give it to me. A figure slowly walked over. This was a young man wearing a black robe with dragon patterns. He had unruly eyebrows, arrogance, and a tone that was domineering and unquestionable. P.S. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I took away the villain's son. Author, the great Onmyoji. Chapter 46. Yang Hao glanced over calmly. In his sight, in addition to the young man who spoke, there were several figures surrounding him. Are you from the Qingyang dynasty? Yang Hao instantly guessed the origins of these people. After all, the Qingyang dynasty's spiritual tide broke out in all things. The Qingyang dynasty could not remain indifferent and would definitely send people to sweep and collect them. He didn't care, nor was he angry because of the young man's arrogance. The levels are different, and the scenery you see is naturally different. If the ants dare to provoke the giant, just kill them casually. Tangshan didn't know what Yang Hao was thinking, and his eyes looked greedily at the sacred stone in Yang Hao's hand. He could tell that this the extraordinary stone of God, the first time he saw it, he wanted to take it for himself. However, the guy who was lucky enough to get the stone in front of him seemed a little shady. When he saw him speaking, he didn't hand it over immediately. Dare to look at him with a look that disgusts him. Are you a subordinate of the eldest prince or the second prince? The third prince has spoken, can't you understand? At this time, a burly man walked out from behind Tangshan and said coldly to Yang Hao. They followed Tangshan and swept away the spiritual objects born after the spiritual tide broke out in the realm of all things. They gained a lot, and they happened to come to this place. I didn't expect that there were already people inside the cave. Those who can enter the realm of all things at the moment are naturally the royal family of the Qingyang dynasty. Neither the eldest prince nor the subordinates of the second prince dare to offend the third prince. A person who hopes to enter the Holy Land. Brainless villains and bastards. Interesting. Yang Hao heard the big man speak and chuckled. He found it quite interesting. When he came to this world, his status was extremely noble. No one would dare to offend him like this. He never expected that he would meet him in the realm of all things. Brainless villain, this made him very interesting. So, he stretched out a finger and clicked out. Ah! Xiao Feng. Tangshan's eyes suddenly blurred, and his right-hand man beside him turned into powder in a very strange way, and died without even making a sound. From the beginning to the end, the other party just pointed a finger gently. Who are you? Tangshan was shocked and said immediately. What responded to him was a group of doglegs behind him, who all turned into powder. Not good. Tangshan only felt like he was being poured down by a basin of cold water from beginning to end. His whole body was like falling into an ice cave. It was so cold that it was terrifying. He had already realized that he had provoked a terrifying existence. Spare your life. I am the third prince of the Qingyang dynasty, and I have been accepted as a disciple by the Holy Land of eternal life. If you kill me, you will offend the Holy Land. Tang Shan reported his identity as fast as he could speak in his life. Yang Hao chuckled. He believed that the most important basic quality of a villain is to be able to take action and never talk too much. Since ancient times, villains died from talking too much, and this suddenly jumped out the brainless villain. He talked too much. Then, he crushed down another finger and pointed at Tang Shan. From the beginning to the end, he did not use any means, but simply used the pure power of his body. Just crush it. But even so, the body of the reincarnation Taoist body that has practiced the 9 nether prison suppressing technique is still not something that a few ordinary practitioners of magical power can withstand. Yang Hao's fingers pressed into the void easily, and the escaping energy the wind directly crushed Tang Shan into minced meat. Huh! At this moment, Yang Hao looked at Tang Shan, who was crushed into mincemeat, with some surprise, and he actually began to revive. Is it similar to the magical power of body repair? There are some characteristics, no wonder he is qualified to enter the Holy Land of eternal life. Yang Hao shook his head and pressed away with his fingers again. Although the magical power does not consume anything, it is impossible to use it continuously. This time, Tang Shan will definitely die. Help! Xia Yahao, help! At this time, a ripple came and a shrill scream sounded. The next moment, the figure of Xia Yahao appeared. Did you crush the mark? Yang Hao thought of the mark that Marquis Xia Yu had given him when he entered. If he could give it to him, he could also give it to Marquis Xia Yu. Ha 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 ha! A miserable and somewhat crazy laughter came Xia Yahao. Quick! Catch him quickly! This person suddenly appeared and wanted to snatch my treasure. All my guards were killed by this villain. I suspect that he is a villain who sneaked into the realm of all things. Tang Shan, who had gradually transformed from a ball of flesh into a rudimentary ball, roared crazily. This guy who suddenly took action was really terrifying. He was frightened to the extreme. Now that Xia Yahao has arrived, he must catch this person. Torture him to death. Xia Yahao suddenly appeared, looking at the scene in front of him and Yang Hao, who stood indifferently. He was completely stunned. Hearing Tang Shan's voice behind him, Xia Yahao shuddered subconsciously. What are you doing? Do it quickly. I have passed the Holy Land assessment and will enter Yaoguang Immortal Peak and become a follower of the Holy Sun. If you want to return to the Holy Land, it will only be a matter of a word from the Holy Sun. Tang Shan said hurriedly. His mind kept recalling the scene just now, and he was extremely frightened. Prince, go on your way with peace of mind. This is the Holy Sun of Light. But a sigh was heard, and before Tang Shan could react, Xia Yahao took action and killed Tang Shan cleanly on the spot. The sun calms down. The villain immediately reported to the king and killed all the Tang Shan people. The villain resigned. After Xia Yahao killed Tang Shan, he quickly said, "Go ahead." Yang Hao was speechless. After watching Xia Yahao disappear, he remembered what Tang Shan said before he died. Such a brainless villain actually wants to join the Yaoguang Immortal Peak. It seems that I need to clean it up this time. Whether this brainless villain is a fake or not, he is speechless at being shot even while lying down. He accepts his destiny as a villain when he provokes the protagonist, but he is inexplicably attracted to the protagonist by his eagle dog. There is no such thing necessary. Yang Hao, who had made up his mind, inadvertently glanced at the area where the Tang Shan group had died, and suddenly his eyes narrowed, as if he had discovered something. I took away the villain's son. Author, the Great Onmyoji. Chapter 47. Yang Hao's eyes looked deeply at the place where Tang Shan and others were killed by him just now. There, traces of blood energy were dissipating at a speed visible to the naked eye. The direction of dissipation comes from underground. It seems that there is a different world here. Yang Hao looked around, and the aura of all things in the world was abundant. The remaining blood in the air would only escape, and could not extend underground for no reason. The only possibility was that there was something abnormal underground. He became interested, and the all realms of Qingyang dynasty followed. Most of his search has been swept away by him. However, the harvest obviously did not meet his expectations. Boom! He gently patted the open space where Tang Shan and others died, and suddenly a deep pit tens of meters deep appeared. Sure enough, Yang Hao came to the pit and looked down. Under the pit of tens of meters, there were passages extending in all directions connecting the blasted pit. In Yang Hao's eyes, those escaping blood energy, drifting towards a certain place in the pit, very fast, as if it was specially absorbed. The skilled man is bold. Yang Hao jumped directly into the pit without any hesitation. In the passage in the pit, it was dark, dead silent, as if there was no trace of life. But it was bottomless. As Yang Hao ran at a speed, according to his estimation, he had reached at least 1,000 meters underground. In the darkness, a few strands of blood were particularly conspicuous, getting more and more blood appears. Is this a blood-eating ghost flower? At the end of the gallop, what leaped into view was a huge demonic plant. Thanks to the former holy son of fluctuating light, although he had a domineering personality, he still learned a lot of knowledge about living things in his memory under the pressure of the Holy Lord. Yang Hao saw it. The moment I saw this huge demon plant, I recognized the origin of this demon plant. The blood-eating ghost flower is a prince-level demon plant that likes to eat the flesh and blood of living creatures. The ordinary blood-eating ghost flower is only about 10 meters in size. This blood-eating ghost flower is obviously unusual, reaching almost 100 meters in height. If it were not in the realm of all things, it would be impossible to say that this blood-eating ghost flower would have reached the peak of the princely level. Unfortunately, in the realm of all things, suppressed by the magic circle, this blood-eating ghost flower only has the strength of the 9th level of the magical power realm at most. While Yang Hao sensed that there was a different world in the underground world, he flew out directly towards the blood-eating ghost flower. The purpose, of course, was to kill the blood-eating ghost flower and extract its soul. In addition, he also wanted to go back in time. It's time to investigate the situation in the underground world of the world of all things. Boom! Boom! The earth and rocks were flying, and there was a constant muffled sound. The blood-eating ghost flower also has spirituality. Yang Hao's unhesitating appearance naturally directly attracted the attack of this demonic plant that feeds on flesh and blood. It's a pity. Don't say that this blood-eating ghost flower suppressed by the magic circle of the realm of all things. Even if it is not suppressed, it is not necessarily Yang Hao's opponent. In just one round, Yang Hao directly killed this blood-eating ghost flower. Extraction failed. Pity. Yang Hao went back in time while extracting the soul of the blood-eating ghost flower. But this time he was not lucky. The soul of the blood-eating ghost flower was completely broken just after it was extracted by Yang Hao. Although it was a bit regretful, Yang Hao also did not surprising. In addition, even if this blood-eating ghost flower extracts the soul, there is a high probability that it will be at the king level, and the probability of the immortal level is very small. What really surprised Yang Hao was that he saw a huge underground world from the time back. This underground world does not seem to be the work of the powerful man who arranged all the realms of the Qingyang dynasty. Instead, the spiritual tide exploded, connecting the world of Qingyang dynasty with this underground world. In other words, the bottom of Qingyang dynasty's realm of all things was originally an unborn treasure land. It's just that even the great power who arranged all things didn't notice it. Yang Hao looked back at the time and realized that the spiritual tide erupted from the underground world from bottom to top, eventually leading to the underground world and the world of creation becoming one. This underground world, connected by the spiritual tide, is also affected by the magic circle of all realms. However, the impact is not strong. Next, be careful. There are creatures in this underground world that are beyond the realm of supernatural powers. Yang Hao's eyes flickered. He did not flinch, but became interested. The unexplored underground world represents danger, but also represents opportunity. He can manipulate time, and he will be certain even if he encounters danger, and naturally he will have ideas in his heart. Eight-winged ancient dragon. Yang Hao kept looking back in time. In this underground world, an extremely powerful beast once flew past. He moved and began to pursue it. It was a very powerful creature. If he could kill it, at least the immortal soul can be extracted. I took away the villain's son. Author, the Great Onmyoji. Chapter 48. Earned 100,000 points for discovering the eight-winged ancient dragon. Earned 200,000 points for severely injuring the eight-winged ancient dragon. Earned 100,000 points for chasing the eight-winged ancient dragon. The ancient dragon is bleeding. Like heavy rain. A figure is chasing after you in the underground world. The supreme killing sword. 8 desolate sword intentions. In front of the ancient dragon, a sword shadow that seemed to be able to cut off an entire world came down. Behind the ancient dragon, an extremely sharp sword intent penetrated the clouds, waves, and penetrated flesh and blood. This one should have been a king-level terror, the ferocious beast. At this moment, the only one suppressed by the seemingly invisible power of the magic circle in the realm of all things is the prince level. It is extremely angry. But it can only be powerless. Its breath is fading crazily. The 8 flying wings are chopped off one after another. Finally, he fell under the horrific killing. The one who chased this ancient dragon was naturally Yang Hao. The magical power is very magical. It doesn't require me to expend any of my power. It can even be used in an instant, and its power is unparalleled. But the shortcomings are also obvious. Every magical power has just been used, and it needs the divine fire in the palace to reburn to a certain level before it can be used. In other words, under normal circumstances, the same magical power can be used at most once in a battle. Normal practitioners can master the 9 magical powers as long as they break through the realm of magical powers. But if they are really fighting, the 9 magical powers can only be used as a trump card. And I have 81 divine palaces. Even if I use my magical power once in a battle, it is enough. Yang Hao went back in time and finally found the 8-winged ancient dragon and killed it. At this time, while summarizing his combat experience, he looked at the body of the 8-winged ancient dragon. Extract. Yang Hao's eyes flickered and he directly began to extract the body of this 8-winged ancient dragon. Good luck. Extraction successful. Another immortal soul. This underground world is truly a treasure. In his hand, a dragon-shaped spirit surrounded the fingertips. Fortunately, the underground world is affected by the magic circle of all things. Otherwise, based on the true strength of the 8-winged ancient dragon, it might have reached the king level. Although my current combat power is not necessarily invincible, it is somewhat beyond my ability to kill and extract the soul. Yang Hao said with emotion. He now has a certain understanding of his own combat power. No ordinary prince-level person will be his opponent. With a full burst, even the king level can fight. But now, he is nothing more than he had just stepped into the magical realm. Even so, Yang Hao was still not arrogant. Instead, he understood the truth that there is a world outside the world. Next, he used time retrieval again, constantly searching for powerful creatures to suppress and extract in this underground world. In a flash, just half a month passed. The underground world was much more dangerous than the realm of all things. During this half-month, Yang Hao spent most of the time in bloody battles. After a while, Yang Hao encountered many dangers one after another, and once Yang Hao even encountered a terrifying beast that was suppressed by the magic circle of all things, but still reached the king level. Under the danger, the harvest was also extremely rich. After several bloody battles, not only the terrifying king-level beast, but also many demonic plants were planted on him one after another kill. Yang Hao not only gained precious combat experience, but also extracted many souls. Although many of the souls failed to extract, Yang Hao still extracted 7 immortal level souls in half a month. Such a harvest can be said to be extremely astonishing. It is impossible for the ordinary realm of all things to have so many fairy level souls. If you go hunting in dangerous areas, the risk factor is astonishing. Moreover, without the help of spiritual tide, the failure rate of extracting souls is also terrifyingly high. Just even the great elder of the Holy Land of Eternal Life only gave Yang Hao 2 immortal level souls and 1 god level soul, which is enough to know how precious the souls above the king level are. If the underground world was not too dangerous, Yang Hao would not if he dares to fall into practice. He can't wait to ignite all these souls and give birth to new magical powers. What is that? On this day, Yang Hao was still frantically searching for various powerful creatures in the underground world. Suddenly, his eyes narrowed and he saw an extremely huge green shadow in the distance. Tree. Yang Hao was surprised, and after taking a closer look, he was a little shocked. It was an extremely huge tree. On the left and right sides of this giant tree, there were lines of extremely rich spiritual energy that were almost condensed into liquid. Earn 100,000 points for World Ancient Tree. Yang Hao subconsciously glanced at the system's income records. Sure enough, the name of this tree appeared. The world's oldest tree. There is no such demonic plant in Yao Guang's memory. Check it out. Yang Hao did not sense the ferocious aura from this ancient tree in the world, so he stepped forward to investigate carefully. The closer he got, the more gentle he felt. He did not take it lightly, but his eyes were filled with emotion again. The time pattern appeared. The next moment, his whole body was shaken. This time, the scene he saw was completely different from before. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I took away the villain's son. Author, the great Onmyoji. Chapter 49. Yang Hao, looking back in time, saw an amazing scene. If word spreads, it will definitely cause an uproar. It was a starry sky, an endless starry sky, with densely packed stars lined up in it. Some stars were barren, hiding endless dangers, some stars were full of life, with many strong men crossing them. Between the big stars, some are connected by ancient roads in the starry sky, while others are only swept by dark storms. But in Yang Hao's field of vision, branches were quietly emerging from one after another among the big stars. Every branch is an extremely huge ancient tree in the world. It was countless times bigger than the ancient tree in the world he saw now. The field of vision continued to shrink, and in Yang Hao's eyes, the big star Zaiwei appeared. Branch after branch also appeared in every corner of the Zaiwei star. The eastern region, the western desert, the northern plains, the South China Sea, Zhongzhou, the eternal forbidden zone, the forbidden sea, the hidden place of the gods, the ancient battlefield, there are branches quietly appearing in every corner of the Zaiwei star. It's just that compared to the extremely huge ancient world trees that Yang Hao saw in the starry sky, the ancient world trees of Zaiwei star are still very small. The biggest one was just the ancient tree in the world that he saw in front of him. The smallest one has just sprouted a branch, just like an ordinary tree. The screen continues to shrink. In Yang Hao's eyes, the time realm finally came to the realm of all things in the Qingyang dynasty. In the underground world, this branch appeared from nowhere and began to grow crazily. 1 meter, 2 meters, 100 meters, kilometers, until it's so huge in front of you. Spiritual tide. from the aura emitted by this ancient tree in the world when it grows. What kind of creature is this? Yang Hao's eyes were shocked and showed an incredible look. He saw it. See countless auras emerging crazily as this ancient world tree grows. In the end, a spiritual tide that practitioners say is rare was formed. The terrifying spiritual energy tide traveled directly up from the underground world and entered the realm of all things in the Qingyang dynasty. In this world, there are countless ancient trees about to appear. This means spiritual energy revived. Yang Hao took a deep breath, and a word came to his mind that should not appear in this spiritual world. The growth of every ancient tree in the world will bring about a huge tide of spiritual energy. The ancient tree in the world in front of me can be regarded as the fastest growing ancient tree in the world. Next, as these world ancient trees grow one after another, a large amount of spiritual energy will explode wildly. By then, quantitative changes will lead to qualitative changes. The aura of Zaiwei Star will be so intense that it becomes extremely terrifying. Even in the ancient era, when it is said that the spiritual energy was the most intense before the Dark Ages and there were numerous outstanding people, there would not be such a terrifying spiritual energy outbreak. This is, the Great Age is coming. It really surprised me. Yang Hao's eyes were like a god, and the timelines in his eyes gradually disappeared. Except for him who has the ability to control time, I am afraid no one can realize that the world has quietly changed and will undergo earth-shaking changes. This world is not a low-level one. The world of martial arts. On the contrary, the great powers who chase the stars and the moon and move mountains and reclaim seas are everywhere. Once these ancient trees in the world grow up, there may really be an era when great powers are everywhere and the giants are not as good as dogs. Even sages and emperors may be born one after another. This gave Yang Hao a sense of crisis. This is the best of times, and it is also the worst of times. The Great Age is coming, and those protagonists who have the fate of the protagonists will get the most terrifying opportunity. And if he is not careful, he may become a stepping stone for the protagonists on the spot. As a qualified villain, Yang Hao looked at the ancient tree in front of him, licked his lips, showed a very interested look, and put his palm on the trunk of the ancient tree in front of him. Let me first take a look at what level the soul of this ancient world tree will be. I took away the villain's son. Author, the Great Onmyoji. Chapter 51. Yang Hao looked at the ancient tree of the world in front of him seriously. The energy and blood in his body were steaming, and the power of the Dao pattern was surging crazily. Although the ancient tree of the world has produced a large amount of spiritual energy, it has no sanity at all, and it seems that it will not resist. After all, if someone really discovers the appearance of the world's ancient tree, regardless of whether the discoverer is a practitioner or a powerful force, they will protect it without hesitation. Wherever the world ancient tree exists, it is a treasure land. It can be used as a foundation to build a great power that lasts for endless years. Who would think of extracting the soul of the world ancient tree? You know, extracting the soul is a matter of great importance. If you do it this way, it will be fine if it succeeds. If it fails, a supremely precious divine object will wither and disappear. No powerful person would just watch something like this happen. This is why souls are so rare. So much uncertainty. After a treasure is extracted into a divine soul, it will collapse. The storage time is only 1 year. Even the holy lands with big businesses will not really use some extremely powerful treasures to extract the soul. This can only be said to be a waste of resources. But Yang Hao doesn't care so much. Through the power of time, he has seen that the future is about to come, and the rare and ancient trees of the world will spring up like mushrooms after a rain in the future. For the time being, he has not considered leaving the eternal Holy Land to establish a large force. The Great Age is approaching, so it is naturally more important to improve one's own strength. That's why Yang Hao extracted the soul of the world's ancient tree without hesitation. His intuition told him that if he could extract it successfully, the extraordinary ancient tree in front of him would be at least a god-level soul. Now, it depends on whether he has such good luck. Fortunately, Yang Hao's luck is quite good. The extraction was successful. As time went by, Yang Hao suddenly became energetic. Extracting the world's ancient trees took far more time than extracting any living thing before, but because of this, he was looking forward to it more and more. Now, in front of his eyes, an extremely huge the world ancient tree is withering little by little, and the spiritual energy that was almost liquefied is also beginning to slowly dissipate. Correspondingly, on the world ancient tree, a little green and crisp divine light is shining brightly, towards it gathered in Yang Hao's hand. It didn't gradually dissipate. It didn't scatter in all directions. The previous experience of extracting the soul told Yang Hao that he was very lucky to succeed in extracting the soul of the ancient tree in the world. This is a god-level soul. Yang Hao stared carefully at the soul of the ancient tree of the world flowing in his hand. Compared with the various souls he had obtained before, Yang Hao could clearly sense that even the god-level soul and the heavenly sword soul given to him by the Great Elder were not as good as before. The soul extracted from the ancient tree of the world is huge. There is no doubt that this condensed soul must be a god-level soul. Not only is it a god-level soul, it is even very likely that it is the best among god-level souls. Yang Hao took a deep breath. The power of the divine soul of the ancient tree in the world was too strong. Compared with the divine soul of the ancient tree in the world, the divine soul of the heavenly sword is like the lake to the river and sea. If my aunt hadn't told me that the highest level of a divine soul is the God level, it's impossible to say that the soul of this world's ancient tree might surpass the God level and reach an unknown state. Yang Hao's eyes flickered. He had obtained the soul of the ancient tree in the world. He could not wait to ignite the soul of the ancient tree in the world to see what magical power he could ignite in the palace. Boom! However, there was a huge dull sound in my ears. After the ancient tree of the world under my feet lost its soul, even such a magical thing could not escape the end of collapse. It can only be rekindled after returning. Yang Hao knows that the aftermath of the collapse of the ancient world tree will never be small. At least it is definitely not suitable for him to ignite his magical power with peace of mind. He has made a decision to leave the underground world and return to the holy land of eternal life from the realm of all things in the Qingyang dynasty. This trip the harvest has far exceeded his expectations. Just as he was about to leave, the shaking of the underground world became more violent. An ominous sign appeared in Yang Hao's heart. Not good. He subconsciously glanced at the system's point income record. He saw that the system's point income record was jumping crazily at this time. Earned 200,000 points for causing the collapse of the world's ancient trees. Earned 100,000 points for enraging Tianyahuang. Earned 100,000 points for enraging the Thunder Tiger. Gained 10,000 points for being hunted. Gained 10,000 points for being hunted. Yang Hao's points have skyrocketed, and dozens of points income records are still increasing. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of items have been scrolled. It seems, something is wrong. Yang Hao looked at the gradually collapsing space around him. It seemed that there was no big crisis. But he already knew that this was the eve of the storm.